Welcome. It's time. It is time. Alright, so, I don't even know where to start with this. This is pretty cool. I have been looking through, and I see a bunch of people talking, a bunch of people going on. We have two people in the chat right now. Fan is here. I almost blinded myself with my own glasses. Let's see. And Kubik is here, who does a lot of the artwork from here. All right, can everybody hear me? Are we all good? Are we all good? Yes, it is time. Oh Christ, Prophet is here. Oh God. Yes. Jack, where are you at, bud? So let's see here. Stream settings. What am I looking at here? Oh, I have normal latency going on. That's why I have such a huge chat delay. So I'm probably going to have a large chat delay. It is what it is, but it's the best way to get the best playback, everything else like that. Plus, I don't have to start having massive audio distortion. All right. So, episode 31. We only have one of these left. And considering how many people want to be here for this, I'm considering doing the last stream for this, because I don't want to exclude our European friends, and I really just want to make sure that everybody gets a chance to watch this with me. I'm enjoying the fact that I, have so many people all over the, all over the world right now that want to tune in and check this stuff out with me. So I may wait until next either Saturday or Sunday, similar to this, so we can watch episode 32 together. Now, when this series is over, we're going to go into Guardsman Party, all Guardsman Party. Now, there's apparently a couple of variants. That the Guardsman Party comes in. I'm going to be putting up a poll for that later. The All Guardsman Party won by a massive margin. Almost 1,000 people voted in the polls. I think the number was up to like 850 or something like that. So, yeah, a lot of people were voting in that poll. Love the amount of community engagement we got. From Costa Rica. Where is everybody from? Where's everybody from? We got Costa Rica. We got an Austrian. So, I'm going to be putting up the poll for which version of the All Guardsman Party that I'm going to be starting to watch. And anytime that Fan comes out with something, I am subscribed to Fan. Anytime he comes out with something, I always wait 24 hours before I watch something. But what I'm going to do, considering I've been watching this live stream, I'm going to wait until the time comes by so we can do a live stream. Let's see. Czech Republic, Indonesia, Colombia, Canada, Germany, California, North Carolina, Australia, Germany, Dark Innovators in Wales, Minnesota, Seattle, England, Poland, another Germany, Utah, Deep West Texas, Denmark, Dioclonius is Alabama, the algorithm's from Turkey. You know what? Algorithm, when I was in the military, I was actually in ASCAS. And, it was the first, I have a funny story I tell people. But, yeah. Chapter 2 of Pray Sight Will Make You Cry. After I finish watching this, I have a little bit of stuff to do because I'm cooking out tomorrow for Memorial Day. But I'm going to be watching Pray Sight tonight and having it uploaded. Let's see. Cincinnati, Ohio. Ronnie, you're not that far from where I'm at. South Carolina. I hear you, Jacob. Oklahoma, Connecticut, Idaho, Lebanon. Welcome. All right, so we got 50 people in the stream. This is one of the largest streams I've ever done. I'm loving it. I'm absolutely loving it. So, yes, I was in the military, Dioclonius. If you guys notice that it takes me a while to respond, it's because I'm on normal latency, and that's a pain. It takes about 30 seconds to a minute. It is what it is. So, let's get ready to go. Alright, first off, X in the chat if you've enjoyed this series and want to thank Fan for what he's done. And then we're going to get started in here. Meaning to ask, Where the 2003 Clone Wars series? Yes, yes, fan, and I have been told endlessly that I need to watch it. The one thing that I'm concerned about, like, I don't know if I should watch it and do a reaction to it, or how I should do it. I'm not that sure about how to go about it. But it's something that I have a good group of people that I talk to about this kind of thing, and I have a lot of positive input, and I have a couple of people now, thanks to a couple of YouTubers that I've been talking to, that will be able to give me a little bit of insight to how to make that work. There's a new episode coming out on May 31st. A new episode of what? Let's see. Alright. Also, F in the chat if you like Kubik's artwork for this series. And here we go. I'm going to push forward a little bit. And bam. I am looking at about a minute delay here, guys. Many years ago, 14 hours after the conclusion of the Battle of Hypori, 2166 BBNY. Death Corps of Kriegsmen is here. And we have an ad. That surprised me. I was like, the music was really good, then it stopped.
The room was dark before Dooku entered it, encased in a thick miasma of shadow, which the opening of the door cut into, light from the corridor beyond scattering darkness which collapsed into the silhouette of the former Jedi Master. The fleeing shadows did not have to go far, harboring in his body as well as within his mind. His steps were equal parts dignity and devious pride, his straight back giving no sign of the tremendous weight he carried, the lives of countless billions born in his right hand, the ultimate fate of untold trillions cradled in his left. As a Jedi, he had served as defender to these things,
Mr. Reich before Battle of Yavin.
both soldier and fortification against the powers of change and violence. Or so he had thought. Yet, even before that illusion had been shattered, when he had been fully under the seductive thrall of the Jedi purpose, he had never felt as he did now. For now, he was no mere defender, though that title too still crowned his name. No, now he was Lord, Judge, Master, Persecutor, Savior, Destroyer, and Defender. He was Sith. And to the meager mortals who gathered under the mantle of his power, he was as a god. And that was a weight the Jedi would simply never know.
This is sounding,
And he
yes,
was
like
not
an Inquisitor.
even the mightiest god. That particular deity was, as yet, hidden, enthroned as Lord of Dooku's New Order from behind a veil of lies and insidious secrets. A veil that the Dark Master now parted as the door closed behind the Sith apprentice.
It's creamy Sheev.
For a brief time, the darkness repossessed the space, slithering hatefully into those places which had been taken from them by the light beyond the doors, only to shrink back, fleeing into long shadows as the bright blue image of their master appeared in the center of the room. Dooku allowed the aforementioned weight to carry him gracefully down to the ground, kneeling and bowing his head before the robed holographic image of Darth Sidious. "My master," said the Count. Rise, Darth Tyrannus.
Creamy Sheev has named his son.
I have finished observing the results of today's battles, specifically Hypori. Give me your opinions of the events that have transpired, said the Dark Lord of the Sith. Dooku rose just as smoothly as he had descended, his eyes meeting those of his master. For the Confederacy, a day of dubious gains and losses, with one particular victory of note. Even those among the Separatist Senate seeking to downplay the recent victories will find it hard to ignore or dismiss the successful reveal of our newly deployed and
Darth Jar Jar would have been
Supreme
a lot
Commander.
better than
He acquitted
lot of
himself
things.
most impressively, both as a leader of the droid forces and as a combatant against the Jedi. I have no doubt that his involvement will lead to many more victories for the Confederacy and even more dead knights.
Creamy Pharaon
He
is going to
said,
get played badly.
That
Thanks,
is
Prophet.
very good news for the CIS's war effort. But what about the master plan? How does this bode for our future empire? Asked Sidious. Dooku paused to consider for a moment, answering carefully but honestly. In the short term, this is precisely what we need. The Republic may have taken Munilist, but with the preservation of Hypori and the offensive we shall soon launch from there, the balance of the war should remain poised on a knife's edge, further cutting into the Republic's morale, and thus enabling you to pass the reforms you need, while all eyes watch the war, said the Sith apprentice. And what of the long term? Asked the Sith Lord. Dooku nearly winced, but kept his face perfectly placid and controlled. In truth, I am not certain that there is a place for our new Supreme Commander in the regime we are building.
Ad time.
UGG. You probably.
Who is tilted? Anytime I'm playing League, I'm the one that's tilted. Anytime I play League.
Have a tremendous amount of faith that we will be able to stretch his service to the conclusion of the war. While he is a singularly effective weapon, his loyalty is uncertain. He admitted. Elaborate, commanded the Dark Lord. As you well know, we altered him, both physically and metaphysically, to better suit our needs. He is a powerful weapon now, more so than he ever was. Though he had...
Just imagine. Rey runs into the throne room of the Death Star. Hi, Misa back.
has no connection to the Force. His combat instincts are more refined than any I've ever seen. And thanks to the enhancements we've made to his mind, he has quickly surpassed even my most prodigious Force-sensitive apprentices when it comes to the mastery of lightsaber forms, both of the traditional order and of the Sith. The Count explained. I am well aware of all of this. Do not waste my time, Tyrannus. If I had a desire to bandy meaningless words, I'd return to the games of the Senate. The good general was never lacking in lethal ability, even before we augmented him. Those benefits, however useful, were always secondary to their true nature, making sure we can control him. We've sequestered him from organic soldiers who may be subject to his charisma. Through cybernetic augmentation and chemical therapy, we have cleansed him of his past. Through sorcery and the power of the dark side, we have ingrained within him a hatred of the Jedi that burns as brightly as my own. Are you suggesting that this is not enough? Hissed Sidious. Forgive me, my master. Yes, I fear that there may be some element we neglected, or perhaps we underestimated his will. He is meant to believe, as most of the galaxy does, that he is a droid. But when I presented him with that lie, he rejected it almost immediately, and very violently.
So basically he's Pinocchio. I'm a real boy!
The General hates the portions of his body we have mechanized, and forced on me a concession, a lie, that I would not alter his mind. I had hoped that by enlarging and exacerbating the nerves in his brain responsible for rage and anger, I would succeed in subtly diverting him from the aspects of his former cunning which might threaten us or uncover his past. I fear this may have only given him a Sith-like sense of clarity, however, as he has begun to dress himself and his Magna Guard in the cloaks and robes of his former People's Warrior caste. I have even begun to suspect that he remembers his name, his true name. If this is allowed to continue, then it is only a matter of time before he begins to recall more poignant parts of his own history. Pieces of who he was which may surface over time and sway his allegiance from us and our goals. While it is true that we could deactivate all of his forces remotely, should he attempt anything too roguish, the Count began to say, the deactivation of so many of our
he's
droids,
a Blood Angel, Jackson.
even if only temporarily, could greatly hinder the progression and stability of our grand plan. And you are certain that the transfusion of midichlorian-rich blood into his system has done nothing? Asked the Dark Lord.
These people are fucking stupid! Ugh!
Count Dooku shook his head. I am afraid not, Master. The midichlorians died hours after the transplant, and at no point did he seem to even brush against any sensitivity to the Force. He said in answer, a pity. We shall start again, then. What is the General's current condition? Asked the Dark Lord.
Pissed, probably.
He is currently dormant. While he sustained no significant injuries during the battle, he did expend a tremendous amount of power. He should already be fully charged once more, but I've ordered his Crypt Watcher to keep him unconscious and in diagnostic mode until further notice. Good. Shut him down, but do not kill him. Place him into storage, ready for deployment at our command. We may yet have use of him, particularly should his replacement prove unworthy. Ordered Sidious. It will be done, my master. However, I must warn you that the rest of the Separatist Council will wonder at the sudden disappearance of their Supreme Commander, and finding a proper replacement for Grievous will not be easy or quick. Our forces will be headless for a time.
Creamy Sheev is playing Operation. Oh my god, that's just harsh. They're not that bright because I'm pretty sure, well, Grievous couldn't kill Palpatine or Dooku, so yeah, I understand it.
Said the Count. The Senate shall not wonder at all about this, because to them it will appear as though their general never left. No one will know that we have replaced him, for the new general will carry Grievous's face and name. And his absence will not be a problem, for I already have a candidate in mind. A Kalish warrior, whom you should find much more malleable. Said the Dark Lord, a static hologram appearing beside his own, depicting a tall Kalish warrior holding a sword, his body already pocked and marked with copious cybernetic augmentations. Your wisdom endlessly astounds me, my master. Where did you come across such a man? What is his name? Asked the apprentice. His name is unimportant. He
Oh, that's a great name for a general. Oh, wait.
shall be Grievous. As you can see, he already seeks the strength of our enhancements, using them to fuel his already existing vendetta against the Jedi who turned him away at their temple gates. He blames them for his lack of connection to the Force, a source of envy and resentment which you will find a rich resource when reshaping him. His record as a warlord speaks for itself. He should suffice.
Doing all
I
right,
will
Tech
leave
Priest
it to
Bean.
you to ensure that he does, said the Dark Lord. Count Dooku bowed deeply, wading into the clawing shadows as he displayed his submission to the greater god. It will be as you command. Will there be anything else you desire of me? He asked. Yes. This time, make him smaller. Weaker, said the Sith Lord. Master? Asked Count Dooku, looking up quizzically. This new candidate is composed of envy and endless vainglory.
Oh, this is always a good
I fear
sign.
that if you make him as efficient and deadly as his predecessor, he may decide, erroneously, that he no longer needs us. Shape him, train him, but make sure he never forgets his place.
General Unimportant will lead our armies to victory. So saith Creamy Sheev.
We are the scions of the Force. Even the Jedi have worthier claim to greatness than our new general, even if they lack the wisdom or will to seize it. Said Sidious. As you wish. Breathed the
Welcome, Hobbit.
gray-haired Count, standing up straight as the light of the hologram began to die. Good.
Good.
And remember, Tyrannus, we must not wake Shilal unless we have no choice. Should he realize our treachery, then he may decide that the difference between our order and that of the Jedi is too slight in his small mind to warrant anything but the same hatred. Best we not risk his rampancy unless we must. And with those final words, the fate of Quayman-Jai Shalal, the dreaming demigod of war, was set. Or so it would have been, were it not for the twisting of fate which would occur nearly 4 years later. Shilal had been destined to dream until his death, when the shutdown signal came for all the droids and deactivated his life support systems, leaving him to die, alone and hidden away beneath the vast factories of Hypori.
Wait. Hold up. Wait a minute. Okay, so this is something I don't know that much about. I will ask the question and then I will let it play and read your guys' responses. So, there are two General Grievouses. One is literal demigod among his people. The other one is generally unimportant, general unimportant. Am I getting it right here? And general unimportant was the one that was killed in Revenge of the Sith. Just making sure I'm got everything clear here. Because batshit insanity and general unimportant.
But in this new future, the deactivation signal did not come as it should have. Instead, a different signal was received. One which drained the fluid out of his holding tank, and which triggered the automatic assembly of his original 10-foot-tall body. One which woke the grieving dreamer and began a new nightmare.
Whose side is he gonna take? Whose side is he gonna take?
The second man who would don the title of Grievous steepled his metal fingers, watching the hollow displays before his still flesh and blood eyes, showing him the progress of the battle. The enemy he now faced was gutsy beyond anything the Republic had ever shown him, short of the Jedi generals such as Anakin Skywalker and Obi-Wan Kenobi. And even they would not have attempted something as suicidal as this. The Imperials, the new enemy, were a foe which stood distinctly apart from the Republic, and had lobbed a relatively small but powerful fleet into the center of the Confederacy. The general knew not how they had managed to sneak around all known hyperspace corridors. But whatever their means, it had taken the home defense fleet completely by surprise. That, paired with the use of their devastatingly powerful and, to this point, unknown weaponry, led to the utter catastrophe which greeted him when General Grievous had finally arrived at the defense.
Okay, seriously, I hated the movie Grievous. I want to see that thing curb stomped by something that's more approximating a scary villain. Give me horror. Let's roll!
Even before his arrival, the general had been fine-tuning the counterattack, using existing communications with the besieged fleet and planet to better coordinate his approach. More and more ships lost contact with him throughout the process. Even the planet itself ceased outbound communications. But the information they had relayed had been enough. Grievous ended the general recall order, instead mustering his forces in a proper formation within a neighboring system, instead of feeding the ships, fleet by fleet, to the enemy combatants. Additionally, he was briefed on the use of the most devastating weapon wielded against their local forces around Raxus. An armament that was being referred to as the Star Launcher. This weapon could strip the shields and melt the hulls of even the most powerful Confederate ships. But it appeared to be a missile or projectile of some kind, and was used sparingly as opposed to continuously.
That's a statement, Josh.
To avoid unnecessary vulnerabilities to the weapon and escape the fate of much of the home fleet.
Okay, what the hell did I miss in 2003 that all you know about? What the hell? Oh my god! Alright, let's go.
The general broke from convention and divided his forces into many loosely packed fleet groupings. Confident that any single detonation of the enemy star launchers would be mitigated thanks to their scattered but uniform approach, the general ordered his forces into the Raxus system. Appearing out of hyperspace in a somewhat disjointed sphere around the Imperial forces present there, and beginning an immediate approach. Yet, even before the battle was purposefully joined, Grievous saw the damage that had already been done, and...
Chris. Oh, wow.
Which continued to be inflicted on the brutalized, smoldering surface of the Confederacy's capital world.
Star Wars Doomslayer?
The enemy ships were divided, with one portion attacking the surface of the planet with circling orbital bombardments, while the rest of the fleet stood over them and engaged.
Real quick, how many episodes are in the 2003 Clone Wars?
Engaged with the tatters that remained to represent the original defense fleet, and the scant few forces and ships which had arrived ahead of the general himself. Individual short-range distress calls from the dying multitudes of Raxus Secundus flooded into his comm systems. The Imperial fleet making no attempt to intercept or silence the cries for help which echoed out from the capital. They wanted the newcomers to hear them, and Grievous knew precisely why, as he himself had performed similar maneuvers in the past. Any Jedi or overly loyal commander would rush to the defense of their besieged world, would cut through losses and disadvantageous approaches just for a chance at rescuing some of the world's inhabitants. Or, at least, some of their leadership. This tactic had served him well within Operation Dirge's Lance, and he knew better than to waste his efforts on such an obvious and pointless trap. He was the Supreme Commander. None would question him, not even his name, and so he did not mourn the loss of the Separatist Council. Instead, he silently thanked them for their sacrifice as the enemy fleet found itself in a complete disadvantage. Divided and expecting a reaction born of loyalty, compassion, or surprise. Instead, he gave them cold, brutal cunning and directed the approach of his ships towards the active battle fleet first, completely ignoring the sieging ships as he continued to encircle the entire remaining fleet.
Thanks, Nick. I appreciate it, bud.
His cruisers and destroyers took damage as they closed in, and being spread out forced the Imperials to pick them off a few at a time. And the fleet at Grievous's command was many multitudes of times larger than that which they faced. Losses were all but irrelevant. Even so, the Imperial ships gave much better than they got, and their shields and armor seemed particularly thick and troublesome to destroy. But to this problem, Grievous had the solution of nigh unending Separatist vulture droids, and swaths of disposable droid-crewed destroyers to shelter his cruisers behind. Gradually, but surely, the battle began to tilt away from the Imperials who were attacking, forcing their bombing fleet to disengage, though they left precious little of the world they had been sieging intact behind them. The Imperials...
So basically, at this point, he's the equivalent of our boy the Librarian in terms of martial ability versus Grievous that we got in canon, who got taken apart by Obi-Wan, who didn't even break a sweat on Mustafar. And again, I want to see this cat.
Were packed and forced closer and closer together, their sturdy ships acquiring blazing wounds which bled fire and steel into the void. As, one after another, the smaller giants among them began to crack apart and break. When enough of such vessels met their burning end, the clustered, surrounded Imperials gave up their attack and made a break for the nearest Lagrange point in the system.
Okay.
Grievous reinforced the wall of ships they chose to breach, but wisely withheld his own vessel from the forming blockade. Had he not, he would have been consumed as several of the Imperial vessels let loose their star launchers, birthing a series of 3 Nova-like explosions which entirely cleared the Separatist ships in their path. The display almost humbled the general, and
Alright guys, so after this is over, I'm going to put up another poll. All Guardsmen or 2003 Clone Wars, okay? I'm not sure how I'm going to work this in. If Fan wants to do this with me, I am all the more happy to do it. It's always good to have somebody that understands lore better than you do. Anytime I watch anything revolving around Halo, I always do it with Arch. And in fact, me and Arch are trying to work something out together where we watch something. My brain doesn't want to work. I could look it up on Discord right now, but yeah. Here we go.
Suddenly drove a deep hunger and...
I'll probably do them both at the same time. Who am I kidding? And lose more hair off the top of my head.
And indeed, envy into the cybernetic heart of the nearly droid commander. To have such power for his own vessel, to command those weapons for his own cause, would be like spitting in the face of the Jedi Order itself. Every technology which he could acquire and use against the
Not Arco, Prophet.
Republic Guardians was an unspeakable boon to General Grievous, who took each one as an example of the Order's misplaced faith in the Force. It was with thoughts of power which might be his that he chose to chase down the fleeing ships, limiting the damage he inflicted as he commenced firing into their backs and engines specifically in the hopes of crippling or capturing at least one. But each maimed ship he managed to disable seemed only to last for minutes before detonating, even when focused fire was drawn from the clipped craft and sent to other targets, creating vast explosions which burned and devoured the scattered Separatist vessels which attempted to surround them. It seemed as though they would leave nothing behind for the General, besides the scrap and ruin of their smaller ships. Yet, just as the fleet was using its bizarre FTL travel to escape the system, his armada managed to, at last, wound one of the larger vessels unto uselessness, the cruiser being left behind as the rest of the alien fleet departed, seeming to scatter as soon as they were able. The remaining ship was 5 kilometers long and nearly 2 kilometers high, a crippled behemoth still firing with what weapons it had left, a bear amongst countless biting wolves, swiping while it could with claws that swung slower and slower with each pass. It was not long before the ship was coated in vulture and buzz droids, which made short work of its weapons systems and conventional defenses, leaving the ship helpless before the countless boarding actions which it would be subject to. Grievous watched from the command deck of his flagship as the operation to seize the vessel commenced, and was almost immediately stalled. The invader ship was almost literally packed with personnel, and most of them seemed armed and ready to fight and die to repel the droids which had come among them. Grievous left his machines to work and began to coordinate what was left of the fleet into search and rescue teams, each one seeking members of the Separatist Council, their backers, or their leader, Count Dooku. But such work was beneath him, and he was eager to go about the re-engaging of these new, exotic forces. But to re-engage them successfully, he would need not only the whole fleet he had gathered, but information on his foe which he currently did not have. Details on weapons, troops, muster locations, and bases of operation which would prove invaluable in his ability to coordinate a proper counterattack. He expected to find all of that information and much more upon the disabled enemy cruiser, and was more than dismayed when he returned from the previous task to find his machines had made precious little progress. The resistance coming from within the ship was stubborn and absolute. No terms of surrender were accepted by the Imperials, and no answer was given to the droids that were not voiced through the barrels of weapons and the finely edged blades of sparking and rumbling swords.
Yeah, typically you wouldn't find space, like, you wouldn't find Imperials willing to have a conversation with an android, with a droid of any sort.
While Grievous was made eager again by the thought of the useful scavenging he would be able to put to work for him once the defenders were dead and their weapons were his, the general's eagerness bred impatience with the methodical and often ineffective assaults the tactical droids were choosing to order. Each attack serving as a probe to teach the droids more about this previously unknown force, though not intentionally. They seemed bent on fighting to the death, and had prepared the internals of their ship for such a conflict, with warriors contesting the droids through the ship before falling back to positions that other, less combat-worthy members of the crew had fortified and made more defensible. By this system of vicious resistance, and then retreat to more and more difficult areas to attack, the progress of the tactical droids had been ground to a near standstill.
Nice.
In such times, Grievous knew exactly what he needed to do, gathering his robed Magna Guards and taking a shuttle to the besieged vessel personally. He sank into the Imperial defenses like a sharp dagger lancing into a gut, punching their ordered lines into only one section, their thinnest detected defense, and then funneling droidicas and commando droids in behind the enemy lines. All the while, the general ordered his main forces to hold back, harrying the enemy enough to keep the fight alive, but relieving the pressure to the point that they would have no need to fall back.
Guys, X in the chat if you like the stuff that Kubik has done here. This is awesome.
And from there, the dominoes began to fall, as stalwart naval security officers suddenly found themselves surrounded and unable to withdraw. The pressure of the front lines redoubling when the special droid units had completed their tasks. The mostly civilian defenders and creators of the fortified positions behind them found only dismay and woe approaching their readied positions. The defenders being greeted not by the retreating line of their own forces, but by the mechanical march of General Grievous's droid army. Regardless, they fought stubbornly for many more minutes before they were unwound by the cunning of the droidified Supreme Commander of the Confederacy. Soon, the Imperial defenders were relegated to pockets of resistance, hemmed into corners, narrow corridors, and boxed into closed rooms, leaving the general free to march straight towards the bridge, flanked on either side by his mechanical bodyguards. They met with yet more resistance to the entryway to that bridge, but not nearly as much as he had expected to find. The defense seemingly composed of only 8 well-armed guards of the type he had already encountered aboard the ship. Their weapons could do nothing to droidica shields, apparently designed to not harm the ship around them as they battled, blasting with laser weapons and slug-thrower scatterguns, all of which were ineffective at stopping their advance, and the advance of the troops behind them. It was not long before the doors to the bridge began to
They have come to ask the Imperials about their car's extended warranty.
glow red hot as 4 different sabers penetrated its surface and began to cut simultaneously through the metal, gradually forming a rectangular slice that Grievous kicked down contemptuously, striding inside with a cough and a hack, looking around at the bridge crew. They were all sheltering behind their stations and consoles, kneeling with their heads low, sidearms drawn and honed in towards the door. But Grievous barely noticed them. Instead, his attention was drawn towards the man in the center of the survivors, standing unafraid, not even indignant, massive arms folded behind his back, his still, straight body writhing with countless mechanical tendrils and arms which emerged from his enormous red armor. Standing beside this huge man, bracing a long, 2-handed weapon against the command chair of the ship, was a human who was dressed in navy blues, his bionic eye focused through the scope of his gun.
Which one of you is captain of this ship?
Grievous demanded as his droid guards filed into the space, filling one half of the room. "I am," said the man in blue, his voice tight, barely constraining his obvious hatred. This surprised Grievous somewhat. The man was half the size of the armored warrior who stood beside the ship's command chair. And of the two, it was the former who seemed to be the most in command, not the latter. Regardless, Grievous chose to address him.
Captain, your ship is disabled. Your crew are defeated. And
Your cough drop is running out.
dying at my hands. For your own sake, surrender this vessel to me, or I will kill every last Imperial here and ship your heads back to your retreating fleet in garbage bags.
Okay.
Said the Confederate commander, speaking through a translator they had managed to compile through a protocol droid as the battle had raged on. I'd die a million deaths before succumbing to the likes of you, Xenos scum.
Sparkle like a true Imperial.
Threats changed nothing. Every man, woman, and child on this ship has been ready to die for the Emperor since the moment we were born. In victory or defeat.
Prophet, exactly. That would be the thing. Do the lives of your troops mean so much to you?
This is our destiny, and we will not shirk from it. The captain growled and spat, finger trembling around his trigger, but not firing.
Then you have chosen your fate.
The general pronounced, raising his arm and waving it forward as he stepped back. In response, the Magna Guard swept around him, coming forward to attack. The Imperials opened fire then, but had precious few seconds to make their shots count before the melee-centered droids closed with them. Arms and heads were blown off as las guns and snub pistols blew molten chunks out of the droids.
Nice.
Nearly every single one taking some sort of debilitating damage before crossing the distance. The bridge crew having picked their shots well. But it was far from enough. Headless Magna Guards proceeded as though nothing had happened. Those lacking arms instantly compensating, those deprived of their legs and lower halves crawling forward, hauling their electro staves in their wake. They slammed their weapons down into the men and women of the bridge, causing cybernetics to burst within the flesh which cradled them, driving brutal screams out of throats already sore from roaring commands, and stopping hearts which had been racing for hours. The droids succeeded in overtaking the crew in all places but one. The two Magna Guards which sought to subdue the armored man in the center found no such ease in their own assault. These two had taken some of the lightest damage, and as such came in fast and strong, whirling the poles of their weapons. Both were surrounded and entangled within an expanding mesh of mechanical tendrils as they approached, hardly able to come within weapons range of the bizarre warrior before they were pulled apart by his many arms.
This is what it's like fighting Dr. Octopus. If you don't have spider senses, prepare your anus.
Which coordinated their attacks in such a way as to avoid the biting sting of the ends of the electrostaves. He discarded the pieces by tossing them aside like junk, throwing one of the weapons he had taken from them, hurling it like a lance and aiming for the body of one of the Magna Guard droids who were beating the captain, chastening the officer with merciless strikes of their staves. The throw caught one in the chest, piercing all the way through with the force of its momentum, and spearing the other, pinning the droids to each other and tossing them off of the spasming captain. The Red Warrior followed that up by blasting the conjoined foes with a weapon he held within the slithering mass of his tendrils. The gun was another sort of slug thrower, which gave the sound of deep thunder with each discharge. blowing the guards to inert pieces before it was turned onto the others. All the while, the warrior barely seemed to budge, arms still folded behind his back, posture straight, gaze fixed on the general at all times.
Imagine you're sitting there trying to kill somebody like this tech brain, and he's just looking at you like you ain't shit while he's tearing your entire, like, prized bodyguard to shreds around you. And the entire time, he's just twiddling his thumbs behind his back, looking at you like you're a pest. I love this.
The Magna Guards attempted a valiant counter to this man's weapon, but any who could draw close were seized and torn apart, and the others were swiftly eliminated by the explosive ammunition of the thick gun. Even so, the droids had largely succeeded by the end of the scuffle, and all but the wounded captain and the unfazed Red Warrior lay dead or dying across the bridge. Despite this, the warrior did not pause the attack, becoming passive once the offending droids had ceased existing. Grievous coughed and laughed, stepping forward once again and drawing forth 4 lightsabers. He stood tall, his white and red cape falling away to reveal the whole of his towering mechanical body.
Okay.
Well done. But your heroics end here. I have been personally trained in lightsaber combat by Count Dooku. Even
Please whoop this guy's ass. Please let the tech brain beat the living shit out of this guy.
the Jedi cannot stand before me.
He said, his 2 arms splitting and dividing into 4, each one holding a lightsaber, all of which activated at once.
Excellent.
Said the armored warrior.
What?
Grievous snapped back.
You wish to test yourself against the greatest warrior in the galaxy?
He asked, stalking forward cautiously.
You're about to get
The
your ass.
Imperial warrior shook his
Please beat this motherfucker's ass.
head.
I was uncertain as to whether or not you were General Grievous. But I can confirm from this display that you are. With my enemy confirmed, I can at last begin the 3rd phase of the plan.
He told the alien general.
Plan? What plan?
The plan asked me you're
Grievous
about to get.
asked, and now it was the warrior's turn.
Hobbit, you will find the end of this encounter satisfying. Thank you, Hobbit. I'm already finding this satisfying.
To laugh, or rather, chuckle mechanically through the speakers in his helmet.
Did you really think we were retreating from you?
Ooh.
Do you think you will find our fleets fleeing back towards whatever territory you imagine we are protecting?
The Imperial asked General Grievous.
No. We are not retreating.
This is Webflow Interactions.
Oh, damn it.
The only tool that brings all the animation.
I'm having too much fun with this. I hated that piece of crap. It's... oh, God, okay.
We are scattering, forming battle groups. You see, it's not enough to decapitate you. You vile creatures, living in contradiction to the Omnissiah's laws, parading yourself in steel and circuit, whilst corrupting the divine intention of the motive force. No, we must obliterate you, utterly and entirely, so that none in this new, pathetic universe will ever
This guy's Rastafarian as fuck, I'm just saying.
think to construct such abominations ever again.
He said, kicking the remnants of a still sparking Magna Guard with his boot.
Oh no.
You rant and rave,
You're about to get your ass whipped, son.
but it means nothing. Even if your fleet has scattered, my fleet
Please.
will follow them the moment we are done here. You will fare no better separated than you did together. Some worlds may burn, but so long as I live, the Confederacy lives. Something you and your empire will soon learn and regret.
Here comes the boom.
Spat the general, already creating a list of the most important worlds he would need to rush to defend as soon as he had this under control. But the Imperial warrior shook his large, helmed head.
What makes you think?
Let me tell you something, brother. You're going nowhere. Oh, yeah.
You will ever leave this ship. I have already ensured that you will die here, and your disgusting union of worlds will follow you into the grave,
Said he. In response, Grievous growled and lunged forward. The instant that he did, the tendrils went into action, just as they had with his guards before him, wrapping and clamping around arms and legs, swarming over the alien's mechanical body. The general countered their frenzy by spinning his wrists, cleanly severing the many arms which had sought to dismantle him. The warrior broke his relaxed posture, throwing himself back and away from the reaching, burning blades of the lightsabers. His large slug thrower firing in rapid bursts towards the general, and striking his right set of arms, blowing them off his body and throwing him to the left. Grievous recovered swiftly, growling and coughing as he hucked one of his two remaining lightsabers towards the weapon, causing it to detonate as it was struck, the explosive bolts within combusting at the weapon's touch. Even as this happened, commando droids and droidicas trundled into the room, beginning to open fire on the Marine,
It ain't enough.
distracting him as Grievous rose and saw how little effect the blaster bolts they fired had on his armor.
It ain't enough.
Still, the heavier blasters of the destroyer droids did seem to shove and burn him, leaving molten dents and welts in the man's defensive plating with each successful strike they made.
Okay.
In response, several intact and half-severed tendrils reached for one of the shielded droids. Those which moved too quickly, bouncing off of the radiant orb which surrounded the machine, while the slower ones succeeded in moving through. He twisted, lifted, and turned the droid, moving its gun's aim off of himself and using its protective body as a shield against the blaster fire of the others. Meanwhile, Grievous swept up one of the lightsabers dropped by his severed right arms, arming both of his remaining left limbs before jumping into combat again, driving the man back as he fended off the general's droids.
You are finished!
Yeah.
Grievous declared as he sliced away another large array of mechanical tentacles, kicking the warrior hard in the chest and throwing him against the wall, then slamming his wide, claw-like foot against him, pinning the Imperial warrior there.
Yeah, that ain't gonna work.
But the man only shook his head and released a contemptuous laugh. He lifted one of his true limbs, extending 3 fingers.
1. Attack the capital world of the Confederacy. 2. Lure the bulk of the Confederate fleet here.
He said,
What's
lowering
3?
one finger with each listed number.
What's 3?
And 3. Entrap you here. It was obvious from the moment you arrived, General, that you wanted to capture one of our ships. Know that while it is my master and chapter that serve as the instruments of your annihilation, it is I, Brother Taslion of the Machine Fate, who is the architect of your destruction. You can no more destroy me than you can deny me this ship!
Grievous growled, raising his sabers. Taslion nodded.
Wait, what?
It is so.
He said, and something emerged from his large mechanical power pack. Some kind of thick antenna with a flashing diode sphere protruding from the end. Grievous kicked away from the man, throwing himself back behind the droidicas, fully expecting the warrior to explode at any second. Instead, he stood fully, and as red lights began to flash across the bridge of the ship, and alarm sirens began to scream all throughout the vessel, Taslion spoke.
Enjoy the ship, General Grievous, and its last voyage into hell.
And with that final proclamation,
What? Oh, they're jumping into the warp nuclear fields.
the man seemed to sear and glow with energy. And then was gone.
What?
Vanished. Grievous bellowed a rasping roar of rage and
Burb, I wish for this in my page for YouTube Premium just so you won't be plagued by these annoying ads anymore.
jumped to stomp down on where Taslion had just been standing.
Goodbye!
Sweeping his sabers around him in the hopes of catching the invisible Marine. But as he struck nothing but cold air and the klaxons began to grow louder, he had a sudden, terrible epiphany. Taslion was not invisible. He was gone. It was never he who was going to explode. It was the ship! The methods and machinations of the enemy's ability to teleport were forgotten almost the instant they were realized. As Grievous looked around the ship and ran to one of the consoles. There, his translator showed him everything he needed to see. A warp core breach was imminent if action was not taken.
Oof.
Sabers tossed aside, two hands conjoining into one once more. The general began a frenzied tapping across the control console, attempting to do what was required to prevent this catastrophe from reaching its conclusion. But the moment he tried, his access was denied.
Access.
And he almost smashed.
Access denied. He needs to put oil on himself.
The console in frustration. That's when a groan had him turning his head around, noticing the wounded captain who yet remained alive.
You!
The general barked, stalking towards the man who slumped in the command chair and seizing him by the throat.
End this madness, or we will both die!
He ordered, throwing the captain against the console and then slamming his head down into it, pinning him there with one half of his remaining arm, while the other split and held a saber to the back of the man's neck, letting him feel the heat and burn of it. The captain gasped, voice pained, but smirked nonetheless, as he looked up at the machine monstrosity that was General Grievous, using his human eye to project his contempt as well as his resolve. It is better to die for the Emperor than to live for yourself.
That's my boy!
He pushed past clenched teeth. Grievous sliced the man's head off with a rage-filled bellow. He turned, bending down and hefting one of the electrostaves and making to throw it, aiming for the clear viewing ports in the front of the bridge. He
not gonna be
began
enough.
to speak as he did.
All forces, retreat from the ship, now!
He began. It was his final order, and it was incomplete, devoured by the sudden, cataclysmic ball of warp fire which burst the ship apart, catching all the Confederate vessels which had been docked to it, and many of the others which were
F and chat for the captain. Yes!
nearby in the wake of the screeching, mind-shearing blast. The trap was sprung. And with so many tactical droids caught in the explosion, the fleet of the Confederacy floundered. Even as Imperial warpcraft began to reach out, striding over the placid Sea of Souls as they honed in on those Confederate worlds which were most responsible for the production and control of the droid armies. Mechas 3, Utapau, Metalorn, Balmora, Gentis, Hypori, and many others soon played host to small Imperial battle fleets. Fleets which lacked the numbers to
Oh. See, I was kind of confused because I thought the war ended, but now it's about to. You know, okay.
perform the devastating orbital bombardments that had brought Raxus Secundus to its end.
Colin, S to spit on
But
fake Grievous.
the Imperials would encounter only paltry, ill-informed resistance. The defense fleets of the assailed planets unprepared for the sudden rush of aggression the Imperials would show them.
Oh my
And
god.
even less prepared for the devastating weapons the battle groups would deploy to bring ruination to their worlds. Davik Thune had taken his time with the brutalization of the capital of the Confederacy. But when it came to these constituent worlds, he allowed no such dalliances, ordering his divided fleet to drive in through enemy resistance, drop their payloads of world-ending armaments, and then to depart for the rendezvous location.
What did they use?
The lightning strike fashion of these bombings yielded immense results. On most worlds, at least. But a few, by one method or another, fended off these wounded wielders of woe. And one world in particular did far, far more. The Confederacy burned that day, but from its ashes would rise a new monster. Though the Crimson Razors knew it not, they had awakened a sleeping giant. One of cold blood and pitiless steel. One which was all too
I'm loving this
accustomed
introduction.
to fighting hopeless wars against invaders of greater size, strength, and technology. It would come to be known as the Bane of Razors. But this monster would, in truth, be the bane
Hobbit.
of far more.
Now there's a void and a true
both
chat
for
comes
this
forth.
galaxy and the next.
Okay, that was the best introduction I've heard for a character in a long time. That was the best one I've heard for a long time. But, so, yes, it is John Cena, Anonymous. It is John Cena. Okay, moving on. Okay.
Dooku's signal to Hypori was sent only minutes after he had confirmed General Grievous's death. The message carried aloft on hyperspace communication terminals and arriving well before the incoming Imperial fleet. The signal reactivated medical droids and awoke a facility which had lain dormant for nearly the entirety of the Clone Wars. Within, the living corpse of Quayman Jai Shalal lay, dreaming in half-sleep, bathed in bacta and preserving fluids. Little more than a half-face, a brain, and a floating sack full of organs. But
Real gamers, you missed some shit, bro.
that did not last. An electrical current was forced through the fluid, jolting the organic remnants within, drawing out silent screams from the dreamer. He woke all at once, his every dream, every sleeping thought coming alive, and immediately clutched within the grip of his will. He would never release a single dream again, even as he was tested with a second, unnecessary volt of wakening charge. Now alive once more, the tank drained. The metal pedestal which made up his neck and torso being brought out into the air. He coughed and wheezed, mechanical and organic lungs working more sluggishly than the rest of his body. But the automated process gave him no mercy, no time to acclimate. That was fine, for he desired none. No mercy, not from those who had taken him, who had betrayed him. For he had dreamed the only dream he had ever sought. For nearly 4 years, he had seen her face, smelled her hair, felt their thumbs interlace, both in the fear before combat and in the exaltation that came after. They had taken her, taken his memory of her from him. Never again. While the dreamt one could not ascend to the gods that awaited her, she lingered where she had been born. In his dreams, dreams of war, dreams of love, and dreams of betrayal. Be it by the will of the Force, or by the spirit of his loss, or even by the regenerative properties of Kalish mines and the influence of the bacta he had been submerged within. The general remembered it all. Remembered why he grieved, and by that, what he was. And he was no errand boy, no slave, no droid.
Okay, seriously? Fan, you fucking outdid yourself, dude. This is excellent.
Yeah. In spite of this knowledge, his body was assembled around him like one. Internals swiftly placed inside his dismantled torso, armor sliding over his organ sac. Mechanical servos and actuators being plugged into his neck and chest, allowing the general to shudder as his limbs were reattached. Sparks of tingling pain shooting up through him as artificial nerves were connected to old, unused ports. The ruthless reconstruction took just over 10 minutes to complete. Grievous held parallel on a table-like mechanical rack, his arms and legs bound to either side of him in order to restrain his twitches and spasms as he rapidly adjusted. Reptilian eyes squinted into the medical lights which faced down on him, the only lights in that dark, cursed room. The final piece of his ensemble appeared, hovering over his face. It was his mask, the bone-white vestment descending like a perverse death shroud, hailing not the fall, but the rise of General Grievous. It squealed and sealed to what was left of his face before the table tilted forward within the room. Count Dooku was already waiting for him, though not in person. The Sith Lord appeared before his general under the sky-colored veneer of a hologram, standing and looking imperious as ever, if somewhat older and more maligned. General Grievous, can you hear me? He asked. There was a pause then, as the slitted pupils of the nearly droid general eyed the leader of the Confederacy.
I can, Count Dooku.
He said at length, "Good. It is good to see that you have recovered."
Okay. With the backstory that I've heard so far and the way this character's been introduced, I don't think it's just the Imperium that's going to get their ass whipped. I think this guy is giving out discounts and coupon days on ass whooping. It's like, this is going to get bad. This is going to get bad fast.
Said the Count. Grievous said nothing. We have,
I think this guy's hands are going to be rated E for everyone.
unfortunately, little enough time to catch you up. After the successful Battle of Hypori, you suffered unforeseen complications during your resting cycle. We were forced to intervene to save your life. But the procedure to do so has taken a very long time to complete. Dooku lied.
How long?
Asked the general. 3 years by the galactic date. There is
Everyone's fucked. He knows he's lying.
much work to be done. A new enemy has come among us, and already they have laid waste to Raxus
No kidding,
Secundus.
Narco.
And I have reason to believe that they are en route to our factory worlds, including Hypori, even as we speak.
Oh
They will
my
arrive in
God.
a matter of days, if current estimates are accurate, said the Sith Lord. I have forwarded to you all the data we have on them, including Republic data that we have obtained from our secret contacts within the Senate. He continued before suddenly being cut off.
Ronderu Lij Kumar.
Said Grievous. Count Dooku attempted not to reveal anything when the name was spoken, but the narrowing of his eyes was not missed by the Kalish warlord. "Who is that?" asked the Count. The answer came slowly, as Grievous looked first to his right and then to his left, eyeing the restraints which held him. Enough to stop his spasms, but not enough to stop him.
She was the only thing that mattered.
Uh-oh!
The general growled, yanking free his right arm, breaking the shackle which held it, and then doing the same with his left. General, you are delusional after your long...
Oh no. It was at this moment that Dooku knew. He fucked up.
dormancy. I assure you there is no such person, said the Count of Sereno.
Do not.
The general spat, ripping free his legs from the
Oh
table.
no.
Speak of her.
Dooku scowled, stepping forward. Tread carefully now, General. Do not break with me over a fantasy. This Ronderu Lij Kumar
Fan, you really needed doom music here. Just saying.
is nothing more than a dream. And we have enough to deal with within reality. Grievous glared with savage hate at the blue wraith, stalking forward and resting one of his multi-pronged feet onto the walking hollow emitter that the Count was using, drawing lines of clarity through the image of the Sith, like claw marks across a painting.
I agree.
Said he, before stomping down and crushing the device. General... Dooku began, but then he was gone, and Grievous was alone.
Have you ever sat there and made a science project, did a whole bunch of creamy sheep just fucked up?
For a time, he did nothing, standing amidst the medical droids and dust of the abandoned facility he had been housed within.
Oh.
He was utterly still, the result of his droid body, which failed to breathe in and out as heavily as he felt he should. His systems self-regulating every second. And yet, his rage did not abate. Not until he released a mechanical howl of abject, fearsome hate. And he did not stop there. The general tore half the room to pieces, ripping the mechanical rack he had been held within off of the floor and throwing it, smashing medical droids against the walls with it. He destroyed his Bacta tank, crushed the control console attached to it, and tore the heads and limbs off of the flailing, panicking droids which were present, each attempting to flee the space, and none making it to the door. At last, he calmed and stilled after he finally dismembered the last of them.
Okay, somebody get Karn. Somebody get Karn right now. We need him back. We need him over here right now.
And tossed its sparking torso into the forehead lamp, shattering it and leaving him in darkness. He took just a few moments after this to acclimate and to think. He straightened and looked around the sparking, smoking ruin which lay about him, locating the half of the room he had constrained himself from destroying. Grievous stalked over towards the computer panel behind the now scrapped emitter and pressed one of his thumbs against it. "Facility online. Awaiting directives," said the voice of a tactical droid.
Disconnect all off-world communications systems. Sever them all. Deploy buzz droids to all the hardline communications centers and have them disabled immediately,
said the warlord. "As you order, General," said the voice.
What are our resource stores at currently?
He asked. "Resource stores are at full capacity. Droid garrison is at 4/10 capacity. Shall I begin production of additional units?" asked the facility intelligence.
Yes. Divert all B1 resources to other droid models. We are no longer able to sustain their use. Prioritize the construction of B2s and any other experimental variants that we are able to assemble.
Oh, shit.
Prepare the maintenance and astromechanical droids to repurpose the B1 production facilities.
The warlord continued. "As you order, General. The communication towers are about to be permanently disabled. Do you wish to transmit any last messages?" the facility asked. Grievous paused then, looking at the mechanical thumb he had pressed against the console, hating it, hating everything about this place, and the way he had been remade. So much had gone wrong. It was time he began to set it right.
Yes. Send a text transmission to the Kali system in wild space. Broadcast it in the native language,
he said. "Roger, what shall the message be?" the droid mind asked.
Tell them, the dreamer has awakened.
Okay, so here's the deal, right? I don't see this going well for the Republic. I definitely don't see it going well for Creamy Sheev. I think he screwed up. I'm not even sure it's going to be the Astartes. I think it's only going to be the Astartes if they get in his way. I think he is out to simply whoop some ass. I think he is just going to go in there and just... Oh my God, that is going to be absolutely disgusting. Oh my God, he is going to open up, like, you were sitting there and you were fighting against the droid army, right? You're fighting against the droid army. Then it gets worse and the Imperium shows up. Then you make it worse by attacking the Imperium. Then you make it even worse by waking this motherfucker up. Oh, no. Okay. I'm going to take a quick 5 minutes, get up and stretch my legs. Guys, this is where the fun begins. Press X. Shut up. I heard that thing coming, so we're going to take a quick 5 minutes. It's 4:26 on my clock. I'll see you guys in 5 minutes. And I'm going to cut off the audio so you guys don't get blasted by this. Okay. seriously, the stomping is going to begin. Oh, this is going to get... It's going to get bad. It's going to get bad fast. That's the only thing I can see happening because of this. This is going to get utterly nasty. Oh. Yeah, Ronnie, that's going to be... I don't see this going in any way halfway okay. But, hey, guys, you can't spell slaughter without laughter. Oh, let's see. It can always get worse. Always. Oh my God, the Republic is boned. And I don't mean just regular boned, I mean turbo boned. Alright. It is one more minute till we get back started. Yes, I'm alive. But they're not gonna be. Not for much longer. Oh. This kind of warfare right here is what spawned the Enslaver Plague. Let's see. Yeah, no kidding. Grievous will be singing that, tap dancing on corpses. There's exactly one orc. There is no such thing. There is no such thing. Press X to doubt. X to doubt this.
Force Captain Vordran stood on the bridge of the Red Harbinger, one of the 10 strike cruisers of the Crimson Razor's assault fleet. Below deck, and on other ships, prepared and waiting for him to give the word in the event that they should be needed, were 3 squads of his battle brothers. But he knew they would likely not be needed for anything at all, for this mission would be over quickly once it began. He had been traveling for over a week, his strike cruiser and its accompanying escorts having braved the naked warp to arrive. And according to the still living navigators of the naval elements which accompanied them, they were only minutes from their destination at last.
Eldred's gonna show up and try to have a dinner with Grievous. Please let that happen. Please, I hate that Eldar piece of shit so much. I just hate him.
Are clear on the plan? Vordran asked the captain of the Red Harbinger, a mundane woman with slight augmentations who went by the name of Persava Lyons. She sat at her command throne, nodding as she eyed the hololithic displays which hovered over the front of her throne. We are ready, my lord.
I don't know well enough yet.
Standing up
I'll
and
see,
waving her
but based
hands,
off what I'm seeing,
signaling
it's
the display
going
to
to be
shrink down and be presented before them at waist level.
It's going to be a heavy threat.
We will enter the system at the Lagrange point nearest to the planet, as dictated by the intelligence we managed to rip from the boarded enemy vessels. This will put us almost inside the planet's gravity well. From there, it's a short burn to planet Hypori. We'll prime and fire the 2-stage
Fan, a heretic told you that.
cyclonic torpedo in orbit as we use the planet to fuel a gravitational slingshot, which will bring us back to the Lagrange point, at which point we will depart. They have no idea when we will appear, so their planetary shields should be down when we arrive, as they were for other worlds. We'll ram right through any defensive fleet, and, barring the unexpected, this should be well and done within 15 minutes. Said Persava. The captain nodded. Good. But remember, Captain, most of our targets were already struck by the other battle groups.
If you're wanting to know, guys, my most hated 40k character of all time is Other Weirdmake. Other Weirdmake is at the tops.
Hypori may not know when we are coming, but they will be ready. Cautioned the large, red-armored warrior. Of course, I am sending our escorts ahead of us along with the light cruiser, the Bearer of Hatred, at full burn as soon as we arrive. They should be inside the shield radius in seconds. And if the planet managed to activate them, I have every faith that the Marines on board will be able to drop and disable their generators. Though it may delay us, our fleet is nimble, and we should be able to dance around the defense ships we find in system long enough for them to do their job, and for the operation to commence. Persava reassured. All things considered, Force Captain, I think this is a blessing in disguise. It's not often that we have the good fortune of being able to emerge almost on top of our target. They will not stand a chance. She added, Good. I'd like to wipe this alien stain from the galaxy quickly, and without cost beyond our ammunition
8 to 10.
if possible.
Typically 10.
Not one of these
Depends on the
worlds
chapter.
is worth even a single life of my battle brothers. It is a shame that we even need to bother with them, but there can be only one answer to heresy. The Force Captain
Yes.
intoned. Do not worry. We will show them the Emperor's mercy. It is more than they deserve,
Yeah.
said Ship Captain Lyons. Captain, emerging from the warp in the next 30 seconds. Brace for reemergence. Sounded off one of the bridge officers. Good. Tell the fleet to prepare to engage maximum thrust. We want to be in and out before they know what hit them. Aye, aye, Captain, said the same officer. All the while, Vordran looked forward, watching the twisting mists of white and blue speeding past his ship, before clarity and the blackness of space suddenly manifested. And there, in the center of their view, was the rocky brown world they had come to destroy. He had only seconds to admire it, however, before he was almost pitched from his feet. Arms out and waving, he grunted and stomped down.
What is happening? Report!
He bellowed. Not sure. Checking. Captain, we appear to be under attack, yelled one of the sensors operators.
Uh-oh.
How is that possible? We only just arrived, she yelled back. The ship bucked again, and from the front viewing ports, Vordran saw one of the escort's void shields flicker and die. The explosion it was absorbing overcoming its strength, then another, and another. It's a minefield, Captain! We emerged into a minefield! The officer called out a second later. 3 of our 4 escorts have lost all shields! Our own are taking a pounding! As are those of the Bearer of Hatred. Should we retreat? Warp jump away!
There is no retreat!
The Force Captain roared. Deploy countermeasures!
Calm down, kid. You're about to make a mistake.
Begin shooting down those mines and launch whatever strike craft we can. They will clear our way. As the Force Captain said, we are committed. All ships, maximum burn! Captain Lyons yelled right afterwards.
Chris, don't say such things. That's disgusting to even consider.
The Red Harbinger did as it was bade, as did the fleet around it. Anti-strike craft guns firing into the minefield around them as Thunderhawks and Fury interceptors wove about, desperate in their attempts to fend off the explosives drifting in the void. But it was working, and the battle group managed to shoot its way out as it raced with growing speed towards the brown.
Yeah, tactical withdrawal. What's so wrong with that? You emerge into a problem, tactical withdrawal. Let's go. We got a problem. Let's go.
Brown sphere before them, and the black dots which stood between them. Captain, Xeno's contacts detected. 12 ships are between us and the planet. All of escort size or smaller. Ram through them. Do not stop, ordered the captain.
Your shields are almost down, you moron.
Ma'am, there is a fleet behind us as well. 35 ships now making to move around the minefield. The sensors operator relayed. Ignore them. By the time they get around those mines, we will already be in orbit of the planet.
Begin geographic scans as soon as we are in range.
She's
Begin priming
stupid.
the two-stager the moment we have the required parameters.
She's stupid.
Ordered Persava.
She's stupid.
Vordran could only watch as their ships
They're not
continued to
successors.
accelerate,
They're
unable
not
to lend
successors to the
any
Black Templars.
tactical advice on a battlefield which was so different from what he was used to. He had to have faith in the captain and the ships. For now, they were truly committed to the fight. The escorts burned ahead, led by the light cruiser, which was putting everything it had into its engine strength. Its shields flagging, but intact. It made contact with the enemy ships first,
She's
sprinting through
terrible.
their outbound fire and smashing into one of their larger cigar-shaped ships. It began to break apart, and then exploded violently.
What was that?
The Force captain exclaimed, watching the expanding fireball which consumed the bearer of hatred. The light cruiser emerged, shields utterly undone, ship bleeding scrap and fire into the void as it continued its full burn towards the planet.
Yeah, they may take after the Black Templars and maybe Imperial Fist chapters, but this would be like, you know, the little brother of the Black Templars that's like always trying to show how tough they are because everybody knows their older brother. And everybody knows their older brother's a fucking badass, so they're showing up to the party and trying to convince everybody they're a badass too, and ripping off their flannel and like speed chucking beers and shit like that. And the only thing they wind up doing is making an ass out of themselves. Case in point, they're about to get fucking slaughtered.
But as surprising as the disproportionate explosion had been, it was not as surprising as what happened next. The bearer of hatred was rammed by
They
two
just
of
fire
the
shipped in
smaller
space.
capital ships of the enemy. The twin vessels veering into its path, and each detonating with disproportionate force.
The scrappy duo of the Black Templars,
Fire
that sounds like an
ships!
idea. Really?
Exclaimed Persava as the leading escorts also collided with similar ships, doing as ordered and blowing apart in the resulting detonations.
Really?
What? Asked the
These are definitely the younger brothers of the Black Templars that are trying to prove themselves so fucking much to everybody around them. This is not even a question.
Force captain.
Suicide ships! They're probably filled to the brim with the same kind of mines we just escaped from. All vessels, veer, veer! Do not allow yourselves to be rammed by them, and do not ram them yourselves!
The captain said, spouting orders in a frenzy. The bearer of hatred exploded then, breaking apart and tumbling down towards the planet, burning the entire way.
No.
Vordran muttered.
Yeah, you see, the problem is those semi-classicals. The problem is they emerged out into a minefield, which meant they had been prepared for them. Yes, the artwork is incredible. They emerged out into a minefield. So the reason I'm saying this person is an idiot is because they are facing 10 vessels. They are facing vessels in front and then 30-ish behind, and they landed on top of a minefield. And these ships were ready to engage, and it's a testament to how tough Imperial ships are that they're not all debris right now. And the sheer fact of the matter is, this captain is a moron, because the very first thing that happens is you just launched into a trap. You just went directly into a trap. And now you need to get the fuck out before you get your ass killed.
The remaining ships attempted to evade, the last two escorts being just maneuverable enough to avoid the small targets.
This is true. It's true, fan, but at the same time, it's like one of those things. For me, it's kind of like, okay, you know, you've definitely been ambushed. There's seriously a massive problem. You know, they're not trapped. They could make a break for open space. And they still outgun these ships, but they're just trying to headbutt a wall right now, and that's not a smart idea.
But the Red Harbinger, despite being extremely vast, was not nearly so able when it came to turning away.
The deck pitched as one,
I mean,
and then
I
two,
see why they're
and then
doing it.
three of the enemy ships managed to strike them, firing
Exactly,
their less
Sammy.
effective weapons even as they plowed into the shields and hulls on the power of their sublight engines.
Yeah, they've been literally just walking through these guys the entire time, and now, you know, even with this ambush, they're still showing that mentality because they've literally walked through them the entire time. This is the first time they're seeing these tactics. But, yeah, this is, like, it's brutal, but at the same time, they have been raffle stomping anything they've ran into in this galaxy.
Major damage sustained! Shields are down! I repeat, shields are down! Reported a female officer from within her alcove. What is the condition of the priming sequence for the weapon? Captain Lyons yelled. Unchanged, ma'am. They are proceeding as planned, but we have major hull breaches along the port side of the Harbinger.
They're hurt.
The tech priests report that they will need 20 minutes at least to repair the damage to the shield array. And what about the enemy fleet?
Yeah, victory defeated these guys.
Persava demanded. The fleet closest to us is turning
What's
to pursue.
amazing is they
the
survived
other
the
has
crash.
just finished
What
circumventing the
crash,
minefield,
Prophet?
but they are going around the other side of the planet. It appears they plan to intercept us on the other side. The sensors officer reported. Then we will deal with them then. Keep the engines going and keep me appraised of the situation with the torpedo. Ordered the captain. Scans have commenced. Parameters are being verified as we speak. Said a crewman. The last 3 ships of the battle group dropped into high orbit over Hypori, visible from the ground by the streaking fires that left their overworked engines, creating a trio of blazing tears across the sky, as though the world were being clawed by some enormous, invisible beast. Slingshot beginning, adjusting engine strength, T-minus 3 minutes before contact with the second enemy fleet, said the helmsman. Damn it, those vessels are likely fire ships as well. We cannot survive another collision with them. What's the time left on the priming sequence? When can we fire? Barked Persava. Priming is nearly complete. Firing of the 2-stage cyclonic torpedo will begin in just under 4 minutes. Reported the comms officer. That's not good enough! We have virtually no options for maneuverability in this orbit! Spat the captain. Ma'am, we will not be able to fire if we do not remain at least this close. Another officer
I already
said.
seen it.
We won't be able to fire at it at all if our ship is destroyed. She snapped back. How much lower can this ship go? Asked Vordran. Maybe 3 or 4 kilometers down? Any more at this speed and the atmosphere will tear us to ribbons, said the helmsman. That isn't much, but it should be enough. Persava, bring us close enough to the enemy ships that it seems we will collide, then bank down at the last possible moment. The Space Marine advised. It is the only way, he added. It is impossible, Force Captain. She answered in return, a thick line of sweat weaving down her face. We are fast, but we cannot maneuver like that. We just don't have those kinds of thrusters, she said. Yes, we do, said the Space Marine.
Okay.
Just not on our engines. Tilt the Harbinger sideways and use the recoil from the ship's weapons in conjunction with our maneuvering thrusters to veer
Are we pulling an 18 trying to fly a tank right now?
us down.
Do it!
He said. She bit her lip, thinking for a moment before nodding. Make it so. Order the gun crews on the right side of the ship to disengage the recoil dampening systems. We need all the shake we can get to make this work. Helmsman, stay on it.
They're A-teaming
Aye,
this.
aye, Captain. The helmsman said, gripping his controls more tightly. The same orders were relayed to the escorts as well, and minutes later, they could see the Confederate ships speeding towards them, cutting fainter lines of fire in the atmosphere as they rushed to meet. Steady, said the captain. The enemy fleet was...
I know that this has some. Yeah. This is the opening gambit by Grievous. I think he's gonna take the ship.
now beginning to converge. Targets clearly chosen as their globular clusters begin to shift into nearly
default
linear
dancing.
formations. Steady! She reiterated. The enemy ships began to open fire, bright green and red lines streaking past the Imperial vessels and splashing against their prows. Now, fire! She shrieked, and the cannons on the starboard-facing broadsides of the Red Harbinger unleashed their fury, aiming at nothing but succeeding in jerking the ship towards the planet, the escorts veering down on their own engine power alone. The Harbinger and its fellow ships were surrounded in cloaks of fire as the atmosphere began to burn around them. But the ships held strong enough, unable to remain forever, but not needing to. The daring maneuver was nearly enough to evade the enemy vessels. Nearly. But as they ducked down, the Confederate ships sought to follow. One of the small vessels clipping the side of the Harbinger and tearing away a part of its hull. The struck craft spun up and back for a moment, twirling in the barrier between world and space, before exploding in a cascade of detonations, but not close enough to damage the strike cruiser. Yes! The captain howled, and the bridge crew released beleaguered cheers, especially when the enemy ships of the Second Fleet began to collide with the pursuing First Fleet, exploding and catching other vessels in the wake of the detonations.
Artemis, I believe that Kubik uses Gary's... Yep, Gary's mom.
All right, countdown on the torpedo, she called. T-minus 40 seconds to firing, said the comms officer. Good. Return to standard orbit. Let's drop this judgment on them and get out of here before more show... Persava began to say. Captain, planetary shields just went up! Came the panicked cry of the sensor's operator. Vordran felt his guts drop as a flickering field of light suddenly appeared before them, directly in the path as they made their way up. Without a word, he took the helmet cradled under his arm and slid it on before grasping the side of the command throne with both hands. Burning throne! Brace for... Persava began to yell before the three ships of the battle group collided head first with Hypori's particle shielding, breaking apart against the energetic skin of the world's defense, repurposed into a trap they had all too eagerly jumped into.
Oh,
The
man.
two escorts were smashed, and the Red Harbinger was broken in half. All began to descend, free-falling to the waiting world below them, their wings clipped, their broken bodies falling to the earth.
Yeah. No, they're not getting out of there.
Captain Vordran! Please wake up, Captain Vordran! Said a distant voice, a voice Vordran could barely understand. But it simply kept calling him, over and over, and with each repetition it became clearer and clearer. He blinked blindness out of his eyes and...
Okay, so he's taking these ships. What did the Imperial Guard strength will Grievous race be to me? It'd be K strength. Also, if you're using voice to text, it really does do a whole bunch of consonant switches. It really does. Imp's about to get absolutely wrecked. I agree. The good general has to reverse engineer tech. Oh.
Saw that his helmet lenses were cracked and flickering. With a groan, he reached up, feeling that his body was broken, but not enough to stop him from moving. As he disconnected his helmet and tossed it aside, he automatically ran an internal report on his own condition. Rib plates cracked, fractured across most of his body. Mild internal bleeding, 3 dislodged teeth in the back right of his mouth.
That sucks.
And he'd bitten off the very tip of his tongue.
That's
All in
always
all,
the worst.
he was surprised that it was not worse, and with the help of the Marine who was standing over him,
Have fun, Jackson.
he rose, armor screeching in protest. Report. He managed to grunt as he began to look around. He was still on the bridge, though he was now on the roof. All around him were the gore-laden smears which once composed the bridge crew. He winced as he spotted the bruised, ruined remains of Captain Persava's severed head, which had somehow come free of her body in the crash.
Oof.
Sergeant Kandrin reporting in, the man said obediently. We are on the planet, on Hypori. My squad is half gone. 2 are dead, 3 are in trance or too heavily wounded to be moved easily. My 4 remaining Marines are up and mobile, but no one man got through this crash unscathed. The conditions of the other 2 squads are unknown, but I would not count on ever hearing from them again, sir. The sergeant reported. What about the mortal crew?
They're dead.
Mordrin asked. Well, maybe a few survived somehow, but what you are seeing around you is all I found so far. And Brother Librarian Dendran, what of him? The Force commander asked. The sergeant could only shrug.
Hobbit, that's
I haven't
terrified.
seen him yet. He is likely dead or unconscious, given that he has not reached out to any of us thus far. Either way, we have more pressing issues than locating our would-be navigator, said Sergeant Kandrin. And why is that? Asked Vordran. It's best if you come see. Can you move? Asked the Marine. Vordran nodded. Well, enough. Lead the way, he said. Kandrin led Vordran out of the bridge and to a nearby airlock hatch. The space was not only upside down, but it was also tilted at a sharp angle, and climbing up through it was agony. That agony only increased once they exited, the cold wind of the mostly barren world whipping at their faces. Come, we must climb, said Kandrin, and Vordran.
More Space Marines have died to this than anything else in this universe. Nothing else has killed this many, not even half.
And followed without complaint, though he also considered that what he was being shown would need to be damned important to go through all of this. And it was, for soon the Force commander understood why he had been brought outside and to the
Kubik.
top of their crushed ship, buried head first in the stone of the planet. Keeping watch there, Vordran found the other 4 able-bodied Marines of Kandrin's squad. Each obviously injured, their power armors lined with cracks and dried blood. But what was most of note was what they were watching. Vordran stood up as tall as he could and surveyed the area around them. The craggy planet stretched out before the Marine, mountains spiking against the distant pale blue horizon, and the smoldering, burning wrecks of his battle group laying in pieces all around them.
That's gotta suck.
Scattered out for a couple of miles in every...
Yeah, Dooku killed the squad, but this is what I was talking about. Dooku killed half of what they've killed, what has just been killed here.
Direction. And beyond them was a gleaming ocean. No, not an ocean. An army. A vast machine army, composed not of the spindly, nearly worthless units that Vordran and the others had encountered in mass before, but of the larger, more tactically sound blue variants that had acted as support and shock forces. Among them were tanks of various kinds, from the one-legged, spider-like units which carefully picked their way through the army, to the longer,
ovoid vehicles which ground across the terrain on encompassing tank treads.
Oh boy.
And they seem to be closing in from every direction.
Oh boy.
Velvet blood. The Force captain cursed. Indeed. What's the plan, Captain? Asked the sergeant. Vordran paused for a long few seconds, eyeing the approaching forces and the wreckage which surrounded them. We've no choice but to start searching, he said through bloody lips. Searching for what, brother Captain? Asked Kandrin. An astropath. Or any other kind of psyker who can send a message. We were entirely undone here, Sergeant. This enemy, whatever it is, predicted our every move from start to finish.
Yep.
We must warn the chapter. We must warn Davik Thune. If we cannot, we will have no chance of rescue, and our failure will be utter and complete. The words were like knives to the other Marines, just as they were for Vordran, who spoke
Unreal.
them. We must not fail!
Dude, you're sitting on top of your strike cruiser, which is broken in half on a planet's surface. Your escorts are on fire over there, and in that crater over there. You have only a few dudes left, and you're about to fight an army. You failed.
Can we still detonate the torpedo? Can we at least complete the mission? Asked the sergeant, voice almost frantic. Perhaps. Perhaps not. We will search for that as well. One of your men will remain here to provide intel on the approaching enemy. The rest shall split into 2 squads. I will lead the search for a psyker. You will lead the search for the cyclonic torpedo. Keep radio silence unless absolutely necessary. They may not know that we yet live, and we will need every single advantage available to us if we plan to continue living. Understood, Sergeant? The Marine snapped a salute. Yes, brother Captain, let us begin, he said. But Vordran was not looking at him, and paused, suddenly seeming distracted as he stared into the distant but encroaching ocean of abominations. For a brief moment, he felt that he had seen something. A pale, white figure, like a towering wraith amid the metal men. Its form flickering and waving in the wind.
Oh, boy.
He had seen it, and he was sure, for some reason, that it had seen him. Force Captain? Asked Kandrin. Yes, let us begin as soon as we can. Meet back here at 1 interval, or once we have found what we are looking for. Move out, Marines.
Oh my god, okay. So. I see loads of bad things happening right now. Now, the last time I listened to an ending song, it took me days to fix it. So, if you guys were wondering why episode 29 was unwatchable for a while, it was why. I'll watch that after I turn off the stream. I'll listen to that after I turn off the stream. I don't know how Grievous gets a reputation as the Bane of Rage. He gets getting blown up by himself. No, I absolutely doubt that they are going to be able to do that. I think they're screwed completely and utterly. Grievous is going to wipe them out. I'm pretty much convinced of that, because this was a calculated move to ambush someone. Definitely fan. Also be named Bane of Razors means there had to be survivors. Not really, Dark. Because you got to remember, if they're wearing their helmet, or if they have other kind of recordings available, they can have that, information brought back. Survivors of later battles, maybe. After party, let's go. No guarantee of surviving this one. There at least has to be one survivor. He could just be a brain. You're exactly right, Artemis. He could be completely crippled and turn into a dreadnought. What's up with this? It kind of does. Man alive, this was something else. So, next, you don't know how we grieved his retcon. This is the real General Grievous. It was a plan perfectly calculated to take advantage of an arrogant opponent that thought that they had your number. They came out into a minefield. They did what anybody who had simply walked through anybody would have done in that position and tried to go straight through it. Volo, if I listen to that, this will get copyright hit, and then I'll have to take it down for a couple of days until I can get the thing cleared out. That's typically a bad thing. You think Grievous is going to become third or fourth faction? I think he is technically at this point, considering all the stuff that's going on. The CIS is dead. The droid army is dead. He now takes the place of that. Thanks, Hobbit. I appreciate that. The way fans upset the real Grievous as a threat is masterfully done. His tactics, his presence, his sheer badass is over 9,000. This is something. Add this to the ad removal fund. This is something that I was sitting there thinking. I mean, this was very, very well done. A character extremely well introduced. I have never really felt like Grievous was a threat in the movies. And I was kind of skeptical when everybody was saying, oh, he's angry on this, he's angry on that, but the way that he was introduced in this, it works. Grievous will take the remnants of the Separatists. True. Will the Space Marines manage to kill themselves and blow up the planet with cyclonic torpedoes? I have no idea. Nice bit of symmetry. Razors ends Cannon Grievous with their trap. Legend Grievous wrecks the battle group with his own. Very nice symmetry, yes. Alright, so I'm going to set up a time. And thank you all who donated. I really do appreciate it. I'm going to set up a time for next week for us to watch episode 32. Okay? It's probably going to be around the same time as today. This fanfic is way better than the Star Wars movies. It is better than the last three, in my opinion. The 2003 cartoon will add on to this belief considerably. Dark, I agree with this. I agree with that completely. At this point, now All Guards and Party is still going to be the next series I dedicate to, but there's a lot of stuff. I mean, I'm doing a lot of stuff right now, so I just got to make sure I don't, beat myself into a pulp with this. But if it's something where it's only a couple of hours long, then that's not that bad. But if it was something like, 20, 30 hours long, at that point, I'd have to really figure out how I was going to do it. Calling about the new silly, thank praise, very true. Alright, guys. So, fan, when you get into the Discord, I'm going to put you in a role so you can jump down into where, I usually go to talk to Arco, things like that. Arco actually built the Trident because he is Perturabo. If you don't know this, he will tell you Arco is Perturabo. Both as the voice actor and in real life. We just haven't realized it yet. The little people haven't realized it yet. Legends Grievous has Angron's aggression, Gillen's tactical understanding of the Lion's ruthlessness. That's sick. Grievous race held against the Empire for 10 years. That is sick. Yeah, 3 hours max. That's something I can do. But it'll be something that I just have to figure out when to do it. And luckily, Yeah, luckily it's a thing where if it's only 3 hours, yeah, just have to figure out a time to do it. I'm going to go ahead and bring everything to a close, guys. Thank you guys so much for joining me. Press X in the chat to thank Fan for the beautiful job he's done with this, giving us this. Like, this has been over 24 hours of entertainment. Just pure entertainment. And it has been awesome. From the start to the finish, from the setup to the payoff. Everything has been wonderful. Kubik's artwork has added a whole new dimension to it. I remember when I first started seeing it, it's been impressive the entire time. It's added a whole new dimension to everything. All that being said, look out for Voxed in the Voids, Prey Part 2. I'll be checking that out on my own time in a little bit here. Also, a Commissar Story Part 2 has been written, and 5-ish minute lore is going to be coming in as soon as I can really get started on recording that. In any case, I will catch you guys next time, and that's pretty much it. I hope you guys have a wonderful day, and happy Memorial Day to all my people in the States.